If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who wants to know what's happening in the UK property market, then this, the UK Property Market Stat Show, is for you. My name is Chris Watkin, and each week I am the main presenter of the UK Property Market Stat Show, and I'm joined by someone big in the property game each week. And it doesn't come much bigger than Bryan Mansell, boss man of Gazelle, a firm that helps estate agents with their fall throughs or mitigating that. But we're not here to help sell Gazelle, even though it is a bloody good product. But he is ex-Countrywide. He ran one of the biggest regions for Countrywide, and what he doesn't know about estate agency is not worth knowing. Bryan, thanks for joining us today. Back again, I think, for your fourth or fifth time, I think, is it?
Yes, it is, yeah. I can't remember, I lost count, but it's always good fun to do this. Have a bit of banter, look at the stats. There is something else that actually, since I last appeared on this, I've had a unique insight, more so than most people, into estate agency, because I've actually been helping an agent with some sales progression, believe it or not.
Wow, there you go.
I have to be careful what I say today, because I normally get into trouble for doing your show. So
nothing wrong with that. So, boys and girls, we're here to look at week 31 of the 2023 property market. Week 31 is from Monday the 31st of July to Sunday the 6th of July inclusive. We will be looking at where we are year to date, comparing year to date to other years, and also comparing the week standalone. We will be looking at the national figures. We will be looking at the regional figures. In the last 15 minutes, we'll be focusing on a town or a city and really deep diving into that town and seeing who the main players are in that estate and letting agency game. And for the purposes of this show, because we go for a different town, this week we're going to the town of Cheadle, which is in South Manchester, a beautiful satellite town of Greater Manchester. And we like to mix it match of where we're going. So we'll go and have a look at what the agents do there. So, Bryan, shall we deep dive in and go and have a look at what's been happening in the property market? Here we go.
Get our trunks on and dive in, shall we?
Well, as always, we always start with the listings, and you should be able to see the listings on your screen there, mate. And this week, we as a country listed 31,741 properties. The running average is 32,904. We'll just quickly flick through the graphs, and then if there's anything that needs to be said, then we can just have a look. The listings year to date, we have now broken the 1 million mark. So we have put 1,020,029 properties have come onto the market since the 1st of January in the UK. The average price of a property coming on the market, 412,500, and there it is as a week standalone. So there we go. Let's talk about listings. Thoughts?
Yeah, good. I mean, reasons to be cheerful. I think we talk about, I mean, there just seems to be more and more press coming out about crisis and, you know, all the negative doom and gloom national stuff that obviously, as we know, most people know these days, that good news doesn't sell newspapers or internet subscriptions. Bad news does, fails do, and so on and so on. So this little piece of media that you do is very important to correct and level out what is actually happening on a daily basis. You know, most reporters and most media sources don't track it every single day and work within the industry every single day. Obviously, we do, you and I do, and all the people hopefully watching this do. And so we've got a much more accurate view. And it is not doom and gloom. It is not crisis, as people I've read headlines this week. You know, the bottom line is there's plenty of houses coming on the market. And house prices and houses are worth 45 to 50 grand more than they were pre-pandemic. So we've said, I think, many times before on this show, both, you know, most of your guests, that, you know, comparing the market to the pandemic years is probably inaccurate because it was a freak event. So looking at the comparisons as we do here with the pre-pandemic market, it's looking pretty good.
Good stuff. Let's move on to price changes. And we've had 22,925 price changes. That's running at a rate of on a monthly basis of changing the price on about 13% of our stock, which is higher than it was at the start of the year when it was around 7 or 8%. So the number of price reductions is rising, and the average price of a property being reduced is 383,000. That's interesting because the average has been over 406,000 for the year. So that obviously shows that the lower price properties, and again, London does screw the figures up slightly, are being reduced this week. Anything you want to say on this one before we...
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's something that some interesting data that I've been looking at over the course of the last few weeks and months about price reductions. And you know, I've always been an advocate of, you know, accurate pricing as best you can. And of course, when you list a house, you don't, or it's very difficult for an estate agent with a limited amount of time to do their research, to do the actual physical inspection of the property, you know, to getting the price right, because, you know, it's a challenge. What I would suggest and really push forward is that if you've got lots and lots of price reductions, you are in some ways tempting you're tempting gesundering once you've got a deal, because of course one of the pieces of information that agents are very keen to provide buyers is, oh, this property price has just come down, or it's been reduced, or it's been adjusted. What you've got to remember as an agent is you are plugging into the buyer's mind here that this seller has reduced their price, therefore is potentially open for further reductions. And what you've got to be very careful of is that once your sale starts at whatever price you've negotiated, there are people who are buyers are very price sensitive. They're shopping around. If they are going into a sale with the mindset of this price has come down, you've got to be very careful that they're not going to try and find any way they can to chip that price and chip that price and chip that price in the months to come before you get to exchange. So the emphasis right now, if I was running an agency, and the advice that I give to my fellow agents that ask me for it, is when you are booking in a valuation, an appraisal appointment, it's never been more important to get an understanding of the seller's price point as early as you can, ideally before you go, so that your research then is to back up your recommendations when you list it as this should be the price, not the price you think. So pricing more accurately, more realistically from day one has always been a very difficult thing, because quite a few agents go into an appraisal unaware of or not completely clued up as to what the seller's expectation is. So understand your seller's expectations on price, what they believe the market's doing before you go, I don't think has ever been more important than right now.
Fantastic, fantastic. Great advice there. Let's move on to sales. And you should be able to see the sales screen now. And as you can see here, that sales, gross sales, we are on 21,119. The running 4-week average is 21,487, and the long-term average for the year is 22,220. So again, if I'd have taken this at the start of the year with the news that's been thrown at us, you know, okay, we're looking at, if we looked at, and we are going to look at net sales in the pandemic on net sales, but on gross sales, we wanted to strip it out. You can see there that we are running somewhere in the order of around 90% of what happened in 17, 18, and 19. Which, if you think about it, not bad, considering.
Yeah, like I said at the very beginning, it's not crisis stats, is it?
No.
It's not crisis stats. You know, the challenge is how quickly are we achieving a gross sale from the property that we've listed. And of course, if you're not pricing accurately, or you're not getting the property price down, if you're unable to, and you get the property price down quickly enough, as I've said before, then you are going to struggle, because you're going to extend the amount of time that this liability, which is what a property is to an estate agent initially, because it's a cost, it's not a profit yet, becomes a profit on exchange and an asset on exchange, but it is a cost liability, and it's staying longer on your books. You want to get that off your books and into the bank as quickly as possible.
Year to date gross sales, and what is particularly interesting is that 23 has now overtaken 17 for sales, which doesn't feel like it, but it is for gross sales. 2020 is obviously catching up, because we had those 2 months where nothing happened in the market. And
This is almost a normal market, Chris. I remember vividly many years ago in agency days in various agencies I was working with, we would always, the standard minimum standard we would look at for performance was a 60% sell-through rate of properties if you had the pricing, accurately. Now I appreciate that we've had 80% and you really want to get 100%, but that's quite unrealistic. So anything north of 60% on a sell-through rate is a normal kind of market.
And that's gross sales.
Gross sales, and that's exactly.
Look, so there you go. Look, there's 1 million there.
And six, yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm not sharing my screen there, am I?
A million instructions year to date, and 688,000. So
there's your million for your gross sales, and if we bring it back 60, so actually we are doing quite soon. We're at 65, 66% there.
If you compare, just go back to those listing stats annually and compare the numbers. So if you've got 739 on 1046 and 2018 1065. So we're not far off what we would consider to be much better markets back in 1819. So that's again, reasons to be cheerful.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And again, I think it's the human brain. The human doesn't like uncertainty. That's one of its biggest fears. And I think with all that news and noise that are in the press at the moment, it can be very guilty to go down into that, into that vat of ever decreasing circles. Yeah. It is hard work out there as an estate agent, but if you can just get back to basics. I don't want to sound like John Major in the 1990s, but get back to basics. We have come away from an order taking estate agency where it was just a case of bring it all in, we'll sell it, and actually get them on at the right price, at the right fee, and then actually get it sold with good vendor management to get the price down if you have to just overcook it slightly. And again, I keep banging on about this, but why the hell isn't the value we would put the house on the market doing the price reduction or the vendor contact? That you should not be giving that to little Floss who's 23 years old, who's wet behind the ears. It's your responsibility to just run your own stock. Am I speaking out of school there?
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right, I'll get back off my soapbox and carry on. The average price of a property sale agreed is 351. Last week it was 353. Week before 355. The week before that 361. And the running yearly average is 359. This figure is not stubborn, but it is very, very level, isn't it? It just that's the average price, and we're going to come on and talk about the difference between the average price of a property coming on the market versus the one that's actually selling. And it just shows you that the lower price properties have a higher propensity to sell. It doesn't.
Yeah, well, they absolutely do, and there's more volume of lower price properties than there are of higher price properties, obviously. So it's unsurprising. You can argue, and I'm going to make this statement without any facts to back it up. So happy to get shot down on this. Is the middle market that we're talking about here more susceptible to higher interest rates, to higher inflation, to more of a squeeze on cost of living? Is there more forced sales than perhaps before? Possibly. So it's not surprising that is the stock that's selling.
Good stuff. Right. So that's the number of sale agrees in week in isolation, which again, I think it's important to see. And again, we really cannot compare ourselves to 2020 when there was nearly double the amount of houses selling. We'll come on and look at what that actually looks like on a year-to-date basis in a second. This is the number of sale fall-throughs, and you can quite clearly see on the left-hand side of this graph here that the number of properties that were falling through in Q4 after the wonderful budget of Lady Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, we were falling through in the order of 8,000 or 9,000 sales a week. So yes, we've been hovering around. This week it's 6,150. And the week before it was 5,900. We'll come on to the percentage now. The percentage of fall-throughs at the moment. This week, 28.8%. Isn't it interesting, though, that you asked 100 estate agents how many sales fall through? I saw a post. In fact, it was a post about Gazelle this morning by that wonderful agent in Knight Edmonds in Maidstone. Yeah. And he looked at different sources, and some said 30%, some said 35%, some even said 40%. The long-term average is 28%. 24.28 is the long-term 7-year average of sales that fall through. But even at that, I mean, I think his fall-through rate was 7%, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's actually just a 6 point something, 6.8, 6.9. But so yeah, it's very strong.
We're picking from Alex's post. The magic thing is this: is that still, even at 28%, we are much lower than we were in Q4, aren't we? So
yeah, but Chris, we were bound to be, right, because this country and the housing market reacts like most markets do very quickly to uncertainty and news that came out, and we had a cataclysmic event of this mini budget that with Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng that caused the markets to panic, not just, and then of course the ripple effect came straight into the housing market immediately and people tend to vote with their feet and panic. It's settled down, and we are, like we've said before on some of the other stats, and I hate to say this about this particular stat, but we're kind of back to normal in a way.
Yeah, we're slightly above the long-term average. As I said, the average is around 25%, and the average for this year has been 24.7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
but still, that's still too many. It shocks me.
It's too many. It's always been too many, and let's not talk about it on here because I'll probably end up having a lie down in a dark room straight after this, because 3 years, every day for 3 years, I've been trying to promote to estate agents to do something about it, and only a small percentage of them do, and those ones deserve to be recognised because they're doing something about it for their customers. They're just not accepting this, and they're saying,
and again, we're not, but the bottom line is, boys and girls, and I just want to say is that the two big things that you can do to really shorten that average length of time from 19 weeks to so you cut your fall throughs and you speed up your sales is this. Number one, reservation agreements will cut your fall throughs down to single figures. Bryan's firm does that. We're not here to advertise, and there are other firms that offer reservation agreements. I have to say that for impartiality. And the other one is this, and it shocks me, is outsourcing your sales progression will take off 7 weeks of your sales progression. Okay, the outsourcing firms, there are a few of them out there. Most of them are actually pretty spot on. We'll get your sales through in 12 weeks. That's what they're all running at, and you're doing it in 19 weeks. And it comes down to I mean, you just said at the start, Bryan, that you're doing some sales progression. We as an industry are truly shocking at it, aren't we? Mostly.
Well, look, here's controversial comment from me as usual. I think that irrespective of how quickly your clients want to move or you want them to move, you're in the hands of the right solicitors or the wrong solicitors. They are the people that will determine when you move. The people that I've been dealing with, and I'm not going to name any names, there's been some exceptional, I mean, in the transactions, 10 of them that I've been personally helping one of our agents with, I've had a mixture of conveyancers, the factory conveyancers, the small independent conveyancers, and there are some truly exceptional people in there, but it is all down. The speed of your transaction is down to two factors: your chain and your choice of conveyancer. It's got nothing to do with your own personal desire to move quickly. You're in the hands of the lawyers to a certain extent. And if you've got a mortgage and you're in a certain part of the country that have delays on searches, doesn't matter how fast you want to move, you will only move as fast as these components will be put together. So the more, if you know this as an agent, if you know that your part of the world is slow, then get stuff done before you sell the house. Then you will have less of a challenge when you come to getting the transaction. And that is helping your customers, not blindly leading them down a path, a rose-tinted path, saying everything's going to be great, sticking them in front of two conveyancers you're getting massive referral fees on that don't really care, and then worrying why you can't get responses and you can't get inquiries raised quickly enough and you can't get answers back quickly enough and complaining about them. It's your fault. You've got to research the people you're working with if you want to get the deals through quicker.
Interestingly, I challenged someone on, well, you can only go as quickly as the slowest solicitor, and I challenged that person. They said no, because if you've got some good solicitors in the chain, the solicitors in the chain will actually listen to each other more than agents ringing them up complaining. And the second thing is in the vast majority of places in the UK, search times are not an issue so much now. It's just simply down to the choice of solicitor. Okay. And, if you're taking a commission, I've got a problem with that. But if it's, why take 200 quid if it's going to F up you getting your £4,000 fee?
Yeah.
It's so short-sighted. It's unbelievable. Anyway, let us get back off our soapboxes, Brian. Get back to the Stadaroonies, because that's what we're here for. So the number of fall throughs this week, 6,105. They're running weekly normal average for all weeks in all the last 7 years, 5,229. So now we come on to net sales. And net sales is the number of gross sales that you have in a week, less the fall throughs from your sales pipeline. So if you sold 10 houses this week and you have 100 properties in your pipeline and 2 of them fall through, then you've got 10, 2 are fallen through. So 2 as a percent, 2 is, so then the net figure is 8, isn't it? 10 minus 2. And there is a graph that I think most people look at, and we are now putting ourselves in with 22, 21, 22, and 20, 21, and 22. Can't get my... Interestingly, see how different, how not that much different. Okay, it's 4,000 or 5,000. That the 21 and 22 were compared to now, compared to the out of this world rocket ship of 2020, which was, firing off here. The white dots that you can see on the screen are the average of 17 to 19, and we're presently running at 91.7% of net sales year to date, compared to the average of 17, 18, and 19. Thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, I probably have said on this show at some point in the past about the good old cabinet that I still operate with, in terms of, mentally looking at the figures. So from the stats that you've shown, we've got 3 key metrics here. We've got the number of listings, we've got the number of gross sales, and the number of net sales. Okay, so what you've just shown is, and I'm just going to dumb the numbers down for my purpose, but also to make it easy to understand. You're putting 100 properties in your for sale drawer, right? Of those 100, you're putting 60 into your sales drawer. And of those 60, you're putting 45 into your net sales drawer. And then we'll see and that's the ones you expect to exchange. So actually, from the starting point, you're only putting into the bank potentially 45% of what you are actually listing and putting on the market. So what are you doing with the 55? You talk about sales progression, etc., and you're right to, but we tend to focus on those numbers. What's happening to the larger chunk of our business that nothing's happening on? We're making no money on. What are we doing about those properties? What are we doing about those customers? What are we doing to motivate them to achieve their goal of wanting to move? And I appreciate they don't all want to move, but most of them do. What are we doing? And that's the question I'm going to leave with your audience. What are you doing about the larger amount of business that you're doing nothing with, that's not making you any money? Because it's costing you money to bring it to the market and do your social media on and run your videos on and fly your drones around. That's cost you money. What are you doing about that? Or do you just accept that that's, the biggest amount of business is what we don't do? There's plenty of quotes you can find online. One of the things that I used to love when I read Richard Branson's book all those years ago when he first wrote it is, the most important thing in business is to know why people don't do business with you, because you know why they do, but why don't they? And that's what you want to find out. Why aren't you converting those listings? Why aren't you selling these houses? Why aren't you doing business? That's a critical thing for a business to know.
Wise words. Any tips and advice for agents on what they should do? It's all very good saying that what you should be doing.
Of course, yeah, of course. I mean, there is no magic wand on this, because you're dealing with someone who's moving home or thinking about moving home. And some people, so looking at their commitment when they first come to market, how committed is somebody? Are they prepared to do something like, for example, provide you with upfront information, provide you with, a legal pack, or show a sign that they want to do that when they list? That's an early indication of someone's commitment. What is their motivation to move? What are they looking for? What's their onward going to be like? And what have you genuinely done to try to help them find something or complete their onward moving journey? Because if you're just focusing on one half of that journey, i.e. their sale, then you're You've got a 50% chance of it actually happening.
I would say they probably, a lot of valuers just focus on getting the listing and moving to the next one, because that's what they want, is listings. And, you know, they want the affirmation that someone loves them.
Yeah, quite possible. Absolutely.
If they can't be bothered to do their own sales, their own vendor management to get the price down, then it's quite obviously they're in it for the kicks of the listing, because they want people.
But what tends to happen, Chris, is you're absolutely right, is we focus on the listing, we focus on the sale, we don't focus on the customer and their journey. And if you only focus on half of it, then you're going to struggle.
Well, that's why I believe that there's a big chunk of estate agents that think estate agency serves them, and we are there to serve our customers. And I think we forget about that. And again, let's get back off our soapboxes, because we'll get told off by the wokies. Bless them. We'll just whiz through. So net sales this week, that doesn't look so great, but again, we've talked about that's weak in isolation. But we've talked about the mitigating factor that we're not a million miles away. We're 91% year to date, and looking at a week in isolation it can be dangerous. The average difference between so this week 412 is the price that of a property coming on the market, whilst 351 is the average price of a property being sold. So therefore, the difference is 17.3. That has been hovering around the 17 or 18% mark for most of this year. Okay, the average has been, I'll just have a quick look. The average has been somewhere in the order, and we've got it here. The average has been 20.13. Okay.
Only half of your screen showing for some reason. I'm not sure what's happening.
Very good.
Only half of your screen was showing then. I'm not sure why.
Okay, let's pull it back. There you go. Is that better?
No.
Hold
just
on.
the headline of the graph on the screen. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there you go.
Better. Okay, good stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we'll just have a quick whiz on these. I'm not a huge fan of these these graphs, but I know you are. So anything you want to add on this?
No, it's like we've said before, and obviously, you know, it's increasing. People are getting stuff on, and they're getting the price down as quickly as they can. And because we're doing that more, of course, as we've done over the last 4 or 5 years, then that is obviously why that stat is so high. Try and get the prices right as quickly as you can is the key.
Okay, so let's now move on and look at the national stats. Hold on, there we go. So we'll go full screen on that one. So hold on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, can you see it? Is that a bit better? I appreciate that these are not the cleanest of graphs that you can see because of the way the resolution. The magic thing is this: you can download all of the charts that you see in this show. If you go to YouTube, look at the description, scroll down to the bottom, there's a link there, and you can download them and look at them. If you could almost have them on a separate screen looking at them. The magic thing is this: green is good, red is bad. Okay, so you can quite clearly see here as we go out that the number of price changes has been quite clearly rising, because you've got that on that line here. The number of new instructions across the top, we had a peak in June and we're now down. You can see here we were listing 36,000 properties a week. We're now down to around 32, 33. The number of sales, as I said, we had much better weeks around the Easter time, where we were selling 26, 27,000 a week, and now we're down to 21. But that number has remained pretty stable since. Brian, I'm just going to plow through these because these numbers generate the graphs that you've already seen in the show. I'm just going to now plow through the regional stuff. Just jump in if you want to see anything. We always stop at London because obviously you know what the London people are like. It's a different country and they like to be treated nicely and differently. So we start off with the East Midlands, and again, everything what you'll find is that most regions are running at the same rate in terms of what's a good week, what's a bad week. So again, you can quite clearly see here that the price changes have been really good in the latter part of in Q2, as opposed to which is this green line here, and then the fall throughs have been rising as well. Again, an important rate is the fall through rate, and in the East Midlands that's been running around late 20s. East of England, very, very similar, and we'll just spend there's inner London, again a law to itself, but at the same time the tonality of the colors is very similar to other areas, again because of the nature of people watching this on phones and also Zoom not recording at a high resolution. You can download these to your heart's content, and we'll just whiz through these, and there's nothing really here that's jumping out going end of the world stuff. we'll now move on and look
Some of
at.
these stats are quite good. You know, if you really want to get into some detail with certain customers, then they're actually reasonably good to show an overview of what the year's done. I mean, you know, some of the people that I've met when I was listing houses, you know, you get some that are like, just here's the keys, put the house on, blah, blah, blah. We like those people. But there are a few that, you know, are actually quite interested in the detail about what's going on in the market, specifically if you engage them in that sort of conversation. And statistics, accuracy, data can give you insights that increase your knowledge and increase the knowledge you have of the local market over your seller, because of course your sellers are going to have a lot of knowledge about their local area because they live in it, and it's, you know, they're motivated by it. So you definitely want to always position yourself to know more than your customer. You know.
And what I would say, ladies and gentlemen, watching this is whilst I would not necessarily, well, I don't feel happy you using these stats on social media without my express permission. I have no issue whatsoever with you downloading them and using these on your valuations. So if you were really, really smart, you could probably start using graphs like, let's set this one here, because again, you don't need to be a professional to actually
Chris, what I would say is, again, think about what is the customer that you're meeting. What are they seeing? They're seeing different and conflicting messages depending on the Nationwide's report, the Halifax's report, the Bank of England's report, you know, the Land Registry's report, and they're not in the industry. So they get confused by this. What is actually going on? And this causes uncertainty because there's nothing concrete. And then they see the headlines in The Guardian, 2.4% annual house price falls, and go, oh my God. But if you read that article, it says your house is still worth 45 grand more than it was 4 years ago. So estate agents have the opportunity to set the record straight. That's the point. Because none of the people that they meet are looking at 20 EA stats or looking at the individual stats of the local market that the agents are looking at, Rightmove insights and Zoopla's insights and so on. They're looking at the headlines from The Guardian, The Telegraph, The Mail, whatever. So it's never, I don't think it's ever been, it's always been important, but it's never been more important to set the record straight. Go out as the trusted advisor, as the actual bloody expert that you say you are. Because if you don't, then, and you don't find out what the customer thinks, then you're going to struggle.
You have to be the voice of your town's property market. You have to come across as the most knowledgeable person in the property market. And, you know, if you're checking out, and again, don't feel comfortable on social media but on valuations, you can download this and use this to your heart's content. I haven't got an issue with that. And, you know, even if you are a man or woman off the street, there is nothing that a man or woman off the street couldn't take away from that graph, is there?
No, the two questions that would be in my toolkit above all else right now. Why are you moving now? And what do you know about the current housing market conditions? And you build everything around that. Rather than, here's my brochure, here's my website, here's the properties that we've sold. Should we go on the market? What price do you want?
Because then you're just an order taker, aren't you?
Well, you're an order taker to a certain extent because you're looking for good news. Get into a conversation with people, respect the fact that these people are moving, and respect the fact that you understand what they've been exposed to from the media and statistics. And is it right? And if it isn't, and it most of the time won't be, then your role is to educate and advise.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people a lot of estate agents think that, you know, people buy from people. They don't. They buy from people they trust. How do you get someone to trust you? They have to think that you know more than them and that you are a trusted advisor. And how do you do that? You ask them difficult questions where you can say, well, the other estate agents didn't ask me that. Well, this guy obviously knows what or woman knows what he's talking about. And if you're chucking out stuff like this, which shows what the market is doing, and you can say, well, Chris, I haven't got time, or is that probably hasn't come up on the screen, has it? Hold on a second. Let me just do that. Hold on. If you're chucking out stuff like this, you're not checking it out, but showing them and saying, look, this is what's happening in the property market, as you're, you know, then they will use you because they're looking for someone to hold their hand, to guide and support them on their own moving journey. And your job is not just to say, hi, my name is Chris Watkin, sit down, shut up while I give you my PowerPoint presentation. Because you're just a glorified double glazing salesman.
And you're not sending this out. You need to, because you're then asking the client to understand what you're selling them. You are helping them interrogate and understand the data and how it applies to their potential move and your strategy for getting them out of this property and into the one they want to go to.
And please, you can download it and use it in your valuations. You don't need to be a client of mine to use this. Okay. Right. Shall we now move on and look at Cheadle, mate? All right.
If you want.
Have you ever been?
Yes.
What do you think?
I will reserve judgment.
Not
reserve comment. I'm sure it's a beautiful part of the world. Very, very nice. Lovely people in there. Nice market. Some good agents, as there are everywhere else.
Right, boys and girls. So we're looking at Cheadle now. All the data now again. So that just block your ears up, Brian, because you've heard this so many times, ladies and gentlemen. All the data from the show has come from the 20EA Insights platform. For the purposes also for this next half where we talk about a town, also come from 20EA Insights, and we're actually using the platform where the stats come from. Now, this is Rightmove Plus on steroids with lasers and glitter balls. Okay, I have not been paid in any way, shape, or form, or given any consideration to promote this website. They give me this website free of charge, but in return, I mention the use of it. What I'm showing you here and now is what you can have on your own town, and you can do exactly what I'm going to show you now to show that if you are a good estate agent, because the quite simple fact is this will show you whether you are a good estate agent or not. And also, if you are a good estate agent, how you can prove why you can charge 1.5% as opposed to 1%. How's that? Is that okay? That's the end of the disclaimer. I have to say it. So here we go, boys and girls. We're going to be looking at Cheadle. Cheadle, we're looking for the purposes of the postcode SK8, and this is South Manchester. So we're going to start off with new instructions, Brian. And it quite obviously, let's remember the 383. What I'd like to do is I'm going to keep talking, jump in when you want to say something. Is that fair?
Yeah, of course.
So let's start off with Andrew Snape, and Andrew Snape seems to be right, okay, so their market share seems to be on the slide. Looking at 2021, they were hovering around the 16-17% mark, and they have been drifting downwards since then. So interestingly, as the number one player, their average price that they've put on the market has been 378 compared to 383. And this particularly here is we're looking at new instructions between the 1st of Jan 21 and the 9th of August, which was yesterday, because we're filming this on Thursday the 10th, and it should be published tomorrow morning on the Friday the 11th. Main and Main, let's see what them bad boys are doing. And again, they seem to be, well, nice and steady around the 10% mark. Okay, Gascoigne Hallam, slight growth there, 406. Main and Co 351. They obviously seem to be more of a probably a middle market, lower middle market.
Well, you've got number 3 and 4 there that are basically the Connells group. So
yes,
it's interesting that you've got those two. They have as a business the market share. You know, Gascoigne, if you had together Gascoignes and Bridgefords, then you've got 600 instructions, which is quite a chunk.
It is. Andrew Dawson's, again, they seem to be slowing down in terms of their market share for new instructions. Snowden Wilkinson, again, they seem to be a slightly higher priced agent. That's interesting. Mitchell Williams, 348. Again, if you just compare with the average 348, 383. Callaghan's obviously had a damn good month, that one, but again, one swallow doesn't make a spring. Leighton Snow, and again, Moisley Jarman, again, nothing really seismically different changing there, Brian.
That's a competitive market. You know, there's you know, the one thing that I would say is that you've got a lot of people all, you know, it's a close league table. So you've got a lot of people that are, you know, with a bit of a spring in their step can actually change positions quite quickly on that.
And what is particularly interesting, Brian, is at the moment I'm doing a daily countdown of the 100 biggest estate agents in the UK by just raw unit sales numbers. And I'm comparing their total sales in 21, their total sales in 22, and their total sales year to date to the 14th of July. And what is quite really strange, because they're all on different parts of the country, is that they all of them tend to be the same. So if they were like 91st in 21, they'll be 92 or 93 in 22 and about 94. There's no big seismic, I've gone from 90 to 60. It's weird.
Yeah.
So
well, it's called lack of innovation, Chris.
Right. Let's just have a quick look
Lack of a USP.
So we're now looking at, we always like to look at the upper quartile. So we've gone for anything over 500,000 squindoodles. And it quite clearly see that Snowden Wilkinson, now, again, that's interesting. There is not one dominant player in the upper quartile, is there?
Nope. No, not at all. No, again, similar league table to the last one. There's something innovative can suddenly change that very, very quickly.
Something's telling me here that there is a potential opportunity here for an upper quartile agent. Now you could say, well, could you do that on 660? Now, again, I learned an interesting fact yesterday is that the upper quartile only accounts for 18% of the market, but accounts for 52% of its fees.
Value, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a bit like Apple, really. What market share do you want? Do you want units or do you want value? Value is obviously more cost effective for you. Units is sometimes more obvious, and people think it's less work and probably less cost to get the volume market. Whereas your presentations at the higher end have to be a bit more. You have to spend a bit more money to get the prime market. But the idea is get both.
It's hard work. I mean, certainly I was with the By Design guys, which is Matt Giggs and David Linley yesterday, and chatting to them on their podcast. And we almost came to the conclusion that if you want the upper quartile, I mean, this is an interesting stat, is that we've done, this is our 31st show, is that we always look at a town, and there's only been one location in the whole of the UK where the number one agent in the lower market was the number one agent in the middle market was the number one agent in the upper market. That's Exeter. So that's quite, that's really rare. Normally, that's why we just had a quick look at the upper quartile. I'll have just a quick look at the sale agrees just to see what the market.
Sometimes you get in the agency, Chris, you get the individuals in that brand who are more comfortable seeking out certain property types that they're happy with doing. Some people go for the big stuff, some people go for the middle stuff, some people we tend to go for the stuff that we feel most confidently dealing with the clients and getting the responses. So
indeed. Right. So let's just have a look at sale agreed. So Andrew Snape on new instructions was 11.48, on sale agreeds 11.92. Main and Main 10.58 on their market share. Sale agreed at 12%. So that looks like Main and Main are good at selling houses. Gascoigne Hallam 9% for listings. Let's see what their sales are at 10%. Again, not bad, guys. Bridgeford's 8.5% on your new instructions and 7%, 7.01 on your sales. So again, a little bit lower, guys. Could probably do a bit better there. Sorry. Andrew Dawson's 7.3% on your new instructions. Said agreed. 8.34. So again, there's a pattern there. The independent agents tend to sell more houses. We've got some stats to prove that in a second. Let's have a look. And then finally, let's just look at Mitchell Williams 5.84 and on their new instructions, and Snowden's 7. So very similar, a bit more. So the independents seem to be working a little bit, not harder, but being a higher propensity of selling. And now we actually can prove that in this following graph here. So what we'll just have a quick look at here is this. Okay, so the market in Cheadle from summer 22. So we're comparing summer 21, summer 22 as that year versus summer 22, summer 23. And the number of listings in the last year has dropped by 3.9% compared to, so there's 3.99 less listings between summer 22, summer 23 to summer 21, summer 22. So interestingly, look, Andrew Dawson's dropping, Leighton Snow's dropping, Callahan's dropping. Yeah, and it looks like Reed's Rains are coming up, but again from a low number, and Snowden Wilkinson, again, they seem to be growing, and then this center graph here just shows you, so the further you are off to the right, the more listings you have, and the further you are up, then the average price. So you can quite see it's quite nicely packed. There's no one big one. Let's just put that in visually, and you can see the graphs moving. So you can quite clearly see here. What's this one's here? That Main and Main have dropped by 11%. Okay, let's have a look. Let's look at Andrew Snape's. They've dropped by 2.3. Gascoigne's. Okay, let's look at Bridgeford's. Again, very tight, isn't it?
Well, the question I would be looking at as an estate agent is why have Reed's Range suddenly bounced up and listed more properties very recently? Is that to do with the fact that I'm not sure? Are they all franchised now? Have they changed ownership? Have they got new staff in there? It's always very, we used to be very clear about if you put in, as soon as a new manager or a new lister starts in the town or in a branch, they tend to do one thing and they go and be super proactive for the first 4 or 5 months and, you know, and beyond. And that always used to bring in some new listings that, you know, used to wake people up a little bit. The trick has always been, the hardest one is to maintain that level of intensity throughout your entire time there, rather than just the first 12 months.
Okay. I mean, obviously, look, the thing is this. Reed's Range have a great percentage, but it's running off a low number. You can see this one here not moving particularly well.
Yeah, but it's a 23% growth on their business. So that means they would either they just opened or they've got a new team because something's just happened there. They bounced themselves up from where they were before because they've grown by 22%.
But then Snowden's look, the actual move is much bigger because we were coming off a bigger lump. That's it's all swings and roundabouts, but I just think it's important just to have a look.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fair point.
Okay. So this is quite a detailed graph, a detailed chart. And this is the problem with this chart, is that it's not particularly user-friendly. I know, Brian, you know this, but there might be some people watching this that have not seen this before, and we just have to spend 30 seconds explaining what this graph is about and where there is some pure gold in this, okay? So what we've got here is ignore the new instructions levels and the sold subject to contract levels. We're looking at the exchanged versus the withdrawn, because a property will only leave an estate agent if she either exchanges or she withdraws. You agree on that principle?
Absolutely.
We're ignoring fall throughs. We're ignoring price changes. We'll come on to price changes in a second. And we can quite clearly see here that for every 100 houses that Main & Co put on the market, they will exchange on 75.5 and 24 will withdraw. Gascoigne Hallam at 80. Now, well done, Gascoigne Hallam. That's a really good figure. Andrew Snape at 70 and Bridford's at 58. Isn't that interesting? Now, normally, I'm making a sweeping statement here, the corporates will have lower numbers than the independents. So if you put your house on the market with a corporate estate agent, your chances of selling are lower. That is a cold, hard fact, okay? I'm not criticizing, it's just that's what the numbers show us. But well done, Gascoigne Hallam, because they're in a corporate, they're a corporate, aren't they? Yes, they're part of Countrywide.
Yeah.
Massive well done there, guys. That is one of the highest figures that's in that chart. So you're actually breaking the mold. So a big round of applause there for the guys at Gascoigne Hallam. Andrew Snape at 70, Bridgeford's at 58, Snowden Wilkinson at 72, Mitchell's, so again, we've got Callahan's at 88, Reed's Range at 60, Morris Kilbride at 68, well done, Morris, coming in there. That's quite a mixed bag, isn't it? And if I was one of those higher numbers, I'd be using that to get more listings off the other agents, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah, because at the end of the day, you're being instructed by somebody to help them complete a move. Not, as I've said before, you're not being instructed to put their house on the market. Going on the market is a component of the overall, the 3 components you need to complete to help the customer with what they've asked you to provide the service for, which is to get them moved or get the property completed, not on the market. So the only stats that matter are the exchange stats.
And the price that's achieved compared to the others. So this is the big one, is this. Ignore the fall throughs. And again, here the fall through rate 31%. So again, if you're an agent that's over that 31, so Main have a higher fall through rate, whilst Mosley, Jarman and Morris Kilbride have a lower one. Nice one, guys and girls. Price changes just shows you that Morris Kilbride, big price changes. Andrew Dawson's big price changes. Gascoigne Hallam, one of the lowest. Again, nice one, guys. That shows you don't need to move your stock. You're selling it. So again, a big round of applause to Gascoigne Hallam there with regard to the fact they seem to be putting decent properties on the market, not having to reduce them. Any thoughts on this before we go?
No, I think, I mean, we've covered it off there. It's obviously a market that is, you know, well balanced, and the numbers, yeah, you can tweak them. Yeah, some of the withdrawal numbers at 40% there would set alarm bells ringing around the business, but it's a well-trodden path, this message.
So now we move on and look at which estate agent is overvaluing properties, and then what are the agents actually achieving for those properties. So what happens is that 20EA will apply an automated valuation model, or in essence a Valpal figure, to every one of your listings, and then it will then look at what you put the house on the market for. So therefore, of the 131 properties that Main and Main put on the market, their average asking price was 1.24% above what 20EA thought the house was worth. Gascoigne Hallam 1.34, Andrew Snape 3.3. Guys, it looks like you might be just cooking your figures there, slightly overvaluing. That's not a criticism, but you might be doing that to get your house on the market. While Snowden Wilkinson, they're tight, they're valuing really, really tight. Bridgeford's at 2.83, Morris Kilbride 277, Callahan's 131. But then it doesn't really matter what you put the house on the market for, it's what you actually sell the house for. Okay, so therefore we then see what was the price achieved from the original asking price to what you actually sold. So therefore, Main and Main, you actually sold your house your average sale price versus what you originally put it on the market for was 3.16 below. Gascoigne Hallam, we said that they were valuing tight, and they are valuing tight. So again, big round of applause to Gascoigne Hallam there. Andrew Snape 2.85. Again, so the bigger the red this way, that means that they're chopping off your asking price. Okay. Quite interesting seeing Morris Kilbride here, that they are, whilst they might probably again just slightly not overvaluing, but putting the house on the market at fuller prices, they're getting them. So, that screams at me. Now, in a good way. So what I would say is and again, jump in if you want to say anything, is percentages do tend to screw most people's heads up. So what 20EA say is this: if every single person put on a 400 grand house, was worth £400,000, not asking price, but worth £400,000, what would all the agents get for it? And you can see that here, that the average estate agent here at the bottom would get 399,472. So let us go down this, and again, Main and Main would get 392. So they would get £7,300 less than the average estate agent in SK8. Whilst Gascoigne Hallam would get £5,100 more than the average agent. Andrew Snape, 1,961 more. Bridgeford's 407, which is £7,000 more. Snowden Wilkinson, £4,000 less at 395. So, and we can come down here. We've got Reed's Reigns at 432. Well done. And we've got Morris Kilbride at 410. So what this is telling me is this: that if you put your house on the market with Morris Kilbride will get you on average £10,938 more than the average Cheadle estate agent. The average estate agent, and if I was up against, say, Andrew Dawson's, I could say, look, I will get you £19,000 more than them. We're not
Chris, look at Yopa for me. Get on to Yopa. So you tell me that Yopa would get 45 grand more than every other agent in all those top agents for the house in Cheadle at 400 grand. So
what you've got to be careful is this: there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. Yeah. This is that they're only working off 8 listings.
Yeah, I mean it's
okay.
Just not, yeah.
So therefore, the lower the numbers, and if you go and scroll down here, there is some wild and wacky numbers here. Specialist property solution 7.8. That's probably because it might be a what's name hole, and they've done it up and it went to auction. You don't know these things. You've got to be slightly. You have, so the fewer the numbers, the less usable is this data. But
you're really looking at the top 4 there, right? Top 5 possibly as
possibly
the sample size,
or top 10 or something like that. It just gives you an idea. But the simple fact is that this piece of software enables you to go to the estate agent's house, to the homeowner's house, and say, here is independent proof that I will get you £10,000 more than anyone that other agent. That's why you should use my agency. And yes, you have to pay an extra £1,000 more, but nets you 9 grand. So what are you going to do? You can either save yourself £1,000 and lose 10 grand. What are you going to do, Mrs. Miggins?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right, let's move on.
He disproved that graph if you're not one of the agents that can say that.
And again, do check this out. I do believe 20EA, if you have a couple of postcodes, it's free of charge. And then if you want a few more, then you just have to pay for it. But again, I don't know what the numbers are, and don't mention my name simply because I don't get any kickbacks. I'm just a fanboy of this software. And I know you are too as well, Brian, aren't you? You love to. Right. So how quickly do agents sell their houses? So interestingly, at the moment, it's taking 55 days to get the property from NI, new instruction, to sold subject to contract. And it is taking 134 days. Bloody hell. Now, again, let's just have a look at what that looks like. Here is that it just shows you how long it takes to sell a house, how long it takes in terms of new instruction to sale agreed, and then from sale agreed to completions. So you can quite clearly see here that in terms of the best estate agent in to get your house sold quickly is these three estate agents here. But again, it's not all about new instruction to sale agreed. It's how quick you get it through from sale agreed to completion. And we can quite clearly see that Mosley, Jarman and Andrew Snape seem to, well, Mosley, Jarman, well done there, guys. It looks like you're getting yourself through a lot quicker. And
but Mosley Jarman won't be using that particular stat on their listings, and they'd be mad if they don't. They should be, because the grey area basically is the uncertainty. Yes, it's uncertain when you go on the market, but the clock starts and the heart starts to beat 10 times faster once your deal starts to move. And everybody I've ever dealt with in 35 years, thousands and thousands and thousands of people, when the sale is proceeding, they want to reach exchange as quickly as possible. And they will do anything that you can help them, that you can advise them to help speed that process up. We talked about it. It takes too long. It's crazy. But that is the one part that is a significant value as a proposition to someone who's thinking of selling their house more than anything else. Unless, of course, they're doing that because they're getting 35 grand less than everybody else. Then, of course, you're trading time for money. But actually, I suspect they're not.
Well, let's have a quick look. Mosley Jarman, where were they? They're quite good.
Yeah.
So well done, Mosley Jarman there. Yeah, there's a huge. So really, look at the difference between the best estate agent and all the other agents in terms of new instruction to completion date. You know, there's almost 100 days or 3 months difference. So therefore, those agents that are selling a little bit quicker could use those stats. If you need someone to sell quickly, here's independent proof. Okay, right.
But this is the reality, Chris, right, of the business model for sales estate agents. It's uninvestable. You're putting a cost into your business, and you are realizing the profit of that, the return on your investment, because it's what it is. You know, you're essentially buying a property because you're going to spend money on it to market it, and you're getting a return 75% of the time, if you're lucky. And on average, whatever that time was, what's that, 6 months?
Yeah.
Months later. And during that entire time, the only time you know 100% that you've got a return on your investment is likely to be 10 days before the end. And you're doing nothing to change it. Wow. Let me tell you, people that are opening up in this country from abroad, the Americans, the French now, number of people, Britain has one of the third, I think it's the third or fourth largest financial property market, not on unit numbers, on value in the world. The people, and we are looked at with envious eyes by a lot of people abroad. And a lot of companies are getting footholds and coming in and trying to find innovative new solutions to get a chunk of your market. They're eating your lunch because you're just not changing. And we look at it and we go, well, Purple Bricks came in and look what that's done. Not an awful lot, 5% of the market, doesn't affect us. And you might be right. Yeah. But actually, this will not stop. People will not stop looking at our market and trying to get into it and trying to do things better because it is exactly what you just said. It's so incredibly valuable. But let's look at the hard facts of life right now. The market is not in crisis, right? There's opportunity, huge opportunity to grow. The value of the business that you can create is huge. But you've got to innovate. You've got to have a USP. You've got to say something that's different, whether that's these stats are a great place to start, or your model needs to tackle some of the major challenges that your customers face, not what you think they want. Go and ask them. What are you worried about? What concerns have you got? How do you feel about the market? What are your thoughts about moving? And shut up and listen to them. And then you build your solution around that. You create trust with yourself, trust with your brand, trust with your service. You'll be instructed on more cases than you ever have before. But if you don't do anything differently, you're just going to ebb and flow on the tide of the market year after year. Whilst we have inflation going up, the cost of your business is increasing, managing your staff will never get easier. Do something different, but respect the fact that you have a hell of an opportunity here if you do.
Bryan, thank you for your time today. You've been insightful as ever. Just before we finish that, I did just show the rental screen. So if anyone wants to watch that back on the video, and you'll see the graphs.
Sorry, I was talking over it.
But Bryan, thank you for your time today. It's been insightful as always. Thank you for your time. We'll invite you back in about a month's time for your insight and wisdom. More importantly, thank you for watching the UK Property Market Stats Show. Thank you for the kind words that you send me. It does take a good 5 hours and 2 hours of my VA's time as well. Thank you, Tatiana in South Africa, for doing that as well. It does take 5 hours to do this, so thank you for the kind words that you do, and I know a lot of you get a lot of benefit from it. Like I say, please, 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 whether you're a client of mine or not, I'm more than happy to use the graphs that you can download off YouTube in your sales presentations, not on your social media without my express commission, because I have to save those for my own clients that they can use on social media. But if you want to use them on your iPads, I've got no issue at all with that at all. If I can help you secure more business that way. Bryan, thanks again for your time, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next week on week 32.